Well, I am really delighted to welcome back today life coach and mental health support professional Teresa Mack, who I know through the International Association of Professional Coaches and Mentors. And today we're taking on a powerful and somehow taboo, or certainly not often discussed topic, which is difficult mother-daughter relationships. But first, Teresa, if you could share for those who haven't listened to our last episode a little bit about who you are and maybe why you do what you do.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's really good to be here. Yeah, I feel my purpose found me. I never planned to do what I'm doing. So in 2012, my best friend's son Ed died. He was age 30 and he died very suddenly on an aneurysm. And I'm a teacher for adults and I'm a mixed media artist and a goldsmith. And 3 years later, she still had to listen to very, maybe well meaning, but still hurtful comments. And I still remember the moment I step out of this house from the neighbor and I thought, I need to help people like her. And I thought, I know how to do like crafting sessions and I could create a safe space for people like her, but I didn't know how to help grievers. So I
Right.
thought, let me get some training. So I trained in grief recovery, edotherapy, and different things. And that then gave me a job in mental health. So I worked for 4 years as a mental health support worker. I'm a suicide first aider. And I healed my own depression and anxiety through all the training I did.
Right.
And I've never realized that because for me, grief was bereavement. And I learned from my training, I have a list of 60 losses now. So my training, I learned there are over 40. And
Goodness.
one of the things that we are talking about, so the hidden grief of mother-daughter separation, we can grieve the living.
Mm.
And because that's my situation, I'm really passionate to talk about this and trying to help people to navigate this.
And there are many. I mean, of course, there's different degrees in the mother-daughter, separation, as you call it. As in, it's not a physical separation, or it can become but it's that absence of connection and all the associations that we have with what a mother is and what a mother brings. And I think the more we age, the more I hear people around me, women, going through this to some extent. Some it's really pretty strong. I have a lady in my environment I like and trust very much, who's really at the point where she doesn't even want to reach out when her mother asks for help anymore because she knows what it's going to cost her. So it's also all about boundaries. I mean, I don't even know where to start on such a topic, but I was very grateful that you brought up this topic
Mm.
because I mean, I think our relationship with our mother, it's our first relationship, it's life, right? I mean, it's just
Yeah.
so important.
Absolutely. And I think now I'm 55 years old, so anybody who is in our age range over 50 and the parents are still alive, they will be older, won't they? I mean,
Yeah.
they maybe range from the earliest would be in their 70s to my mom is 82 in March. And so it's not only about a relationship that we think we still have time to work on, we
Mm,
also have the looming death of our parents, but no one
right.
talks about this, and it's really
Exactly.
difficult.
Yeah. And it's all of that mix. I mean, I think, well, anyway, we all have to some degree difficult. I mean, I think it's also, I have friends going through, children, their girls are going through adolescence and, saying, but how can she suddenly, from the most adorable person? And I'm a bit like, okay, some of that separation is necessary for her to become her
Mm,
own person. She needs, to take some distance from the mother figure. But I think, I mean, we're not going to go into any Freud or things like that. But I mean, that relationship with our mother and the fact that it's very rarely perfect, when people say to me, oh, you're such a good mother and all that, I'm thinking like, they will come with a list of everything where I did fail them, etc. So it's that balance of knowing that even if we weren't loved, and now I'm talking about very light issues here, right? But even
yeah.
if we weren't loved in the way that we may have needed, there can be some discussion, there can be some forgiveness, depending on the life of your parents, how old they were. My parents were very young. They were 19 when they had me.
Oh,
And I mean, I've had a very loving, caring upbringing. But yes, there are a lot of things where, I felt that I was lacking. But with age and when I became a mother, I just fully embraced the fact that they certainly did and continue to do the best that they can as they're loving people, but also with their own baggage. So where do you start? I mean, do people, do clients come to you for specifically that, or is it more something that, yeah, a lot of other issues do tie down to your mother-daughter
yeah.
relationship?
So I'm not really talking about what you just mentioned. That's just the normal and natural development of
Yes,
people going into the world. So again, I just happen to get referrals or being asked mostly by people who have significant childhood abuse. So I'm
right,
talking about narcissistic moms, although I'm not a psychiatrist. It's
yeah,
narcissism. Narcissism is a personality disorder, so it needs to be diagnosed. But I have a really good book recommendation. So I'm talking about really, really difficult relationships, and we want to be connected to our moms. I think that's in our
yeah,
DNA. Even
yeah,
children who are adopted, like my friend was adopted, and she's 9 years older than me, so she's in her 60s. She found her birth family. Sadly, her mom passed away, but she's going to see them now for Christmas, and she met them
right,
once, but she's so excited. So I think we always have this longing. So I
yes,
thought I start with the myth of the that all mothers are nurturing. And I'm not talking about, like, I messed my kids up, but the difference is that if you are able to say to your kids, look, I'm sorry and I lost my temper, I was you keep the dialogue open. But when you deal with someone who is not able or willing to acknowledge really deep, deep issues, and you can either be the golden child. I don't know, I'm using a bit of a jargon, but I will explain these words. So you can be the golden child, and the golden child is the sibling that's hailed and seen as the good example, and then you have the scapegoat. But they both are in a very, very difficult situation because they are played against each other.
right,
So I'm talking about women who have grown up in a family where they never really felt safe. Maybe they found out later in life that their mom is a narcissist or has very narcissistic characters, and they just don't know how to deal with this, and they feel really guilty. And the reason why I chose this topic is because I don't know when people will listen to your podcast, but it's Christmas soon for us, isn't
yes,
it?
yes,
And things like Mother's Day and Christmas, they are or they can be so difficult to navigate. So we
right,
thought that all mothers are nurturing, and we have all this mother instinct, and there are plenty of people who didn't experience this.
yes, yes,
So the reaction people get when they try to share their difficult relationship with their mom is often that people have well-meaning comments, like my friend heard with her son's death. And that could range from, yeah, but she's your mother, or she meant
yeah,
well. And people don't realize that the mother they see or the person they see can be a completely different person
yes,
than
yes,
my mother is to me. And you know what? My mother is loving and kind. And if you would meet her, you would think she's the best person ever. The problem I have is that we can only have a very surface level relationship. So I'm actually not even that angry about what happened to me as a child because I worked for decades through it, but that I still cannot mention anything. And I have
mm,
to pretend that nothing happens, and there is no consideration. I was never asked, do you need any therapy for what happened to you? Nothing. And that can be really exhausting. So I need to
yes,
navigate the relationship in a way. I'm kind to my mom and I would help her. She lives in Germany, I live in England. But it hurts. And I had to
yes,
find a peace to realize that for whatever reason, she's not capable. She can get
mm,
really aggressive and gaslighting me. And like, it's very unpleasant.
yes,
So I have to navigate in a way and do a lot of self-care. And that's how we got together, isn't it? The other webinar,
yes,
self-care, that I thought I want to specifically talk to women who have this gut-wrenching pain and don't
yes,
know how to navigate Christmas, shall I grey rock my mum's, or shall I get really boring and try not to talk to her and bring some distance, or shall I pretend nothing happens and we're one happy family? Shall I just block her? And I know we're not going to solve this in 20 minutes, but I thought
No.
we can
Give
encourage.
us some help. Exactly. How can people, because it can go to different, I mean, I know one friend who said, I'm breaking the relationship. As in, I have to set my own boundaries. This has been going on for so many years. And even if we have tried to talk about it, she just takes all the time. And I come back and it takes me 2 months to recover because I'm just broken. I feel like I've been pulled to pieces. And do I really have to go through that? Am I a bad daughter if I don't do
Yes,
that? Right?
exactly. Yeah, that's exactly the questions people are asking themselves. So there are two different types of grief. And if people don't know, like I thought bereavement is grief, but my childhood abuse experiences, yeah, but my childhood was full of losses, loss of trust, loss of control of
Yes.
my body, lots of losses. So we have disenfranchised grief. And that's a grief where we are not really allowed in society to talk about. Like,
Yes.
you're not too allowed to talk bad about people who died, and you're not supposed to talk bad about your mums and all
Yeah.
these things. So the grief is there, but we have no one who is willing to receive our
And
grief.
you are almost meant to feel guilty for having
Yes.
that grief, let
Yeah.
alone that you have been done bad to. Then you've also got that second thing is that, yeah, there must be something wrong with you because everybody loves their mum,
Yeah, apparently. Oh, yeah. Well, that's a whole other podcast. So
right?
we have anticipatory grief, and that's the grieving something that might happen. So
Mm,
I struggle with that a lot, and I'm apparently an expert in this, but to think that my parents could die well, they're not really seriously ill, although my dad is in
No, but they
hospital.
could die any moment, right? Yeah.
Yeah, old age is a thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so I know that this will hit me very hard because when someone dies, we take stock of the relationship. And
Yeah.
yeah, so we're dealing with different grief, but no one has died yet. There is no grave
Yeah.
visit and nothing to really say about it, isn't it?
But I think it's a grief for something that didn't even come, right? There's something that we felt entitled to because we see all these examples around us of,
Yeah,
mothers going through fire for their daughters and all of that. And that we think, well, I didn't get that. So it's a grief also for something which never was, the
yeah.
loving, caring, patient mother. But so, I mean, I'm very glad you brought that up exactly at this period of year. So for those of you who listen to whatever replays later on, for now it's beginning of December. And I think for lots of us anyway, it is a period which is jolly, all these Christmas get-togethers, but also challenging. I actually wrote a post on that the other day as well, even though I do have a very lovely family, but it brings up lots of old patterns from the past. It brings up comparisons. It's, for all of us who do live abroad, which will be the majority of this audience, you go and you have such a short frame of time to really talk about everything that, that there's so much which wants to come out or too many expectations as well, right? And that then you go back hurt or disappointed or whatever it is. So what tips would you have? I mean, would you say don't go? Would you say do go, but protect yourself? I mean,
Well, first of all, it's not my place to tell anybody what to do. So take from these suggestions what resonates with you and discard the rest. I think that self-care is so important, and I would work on this first because if you say, okay, I'm not going, but then you're suffering with this decision, then you're not
mm,
really have helped yourself. So the first thing is you need to, or it would be beneficial if you become aware that you actually might be grieving, just the,
mm,
the awareness that, oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with me. I just have a normal and natural reaction to a very difficult situation. And I can
right.
have a lot of conflicting feelings. I can be excited to see my mom and I can be annoyed. We are complicated beings. And so just to start with, yes, this is more than just being a bit annoyed or so. There's something really serious going on. And then to realize how important self-care is. So I've got chronic pain, ME/CFS, long COVID. So I've got chronic illness, which affects my life quite a lot. And I know, or I believe, that part of my chronic illness is delayed trauma from my childhood, not being able to say no, having feeling I have to people please and I have to go the extra mile. I'm also autistic and I've got ADHD, so I burned my body out. So if you're in doubt if self-care is selfish or not, and are you entitled, it has serious physical, mental health, and physical health consequences. So I would
Right.
start there. I would just
And it's so
explore.
true what you say. I mean, I have no idea why, in particular, women, we somehow have this idea that self-care is selfish, right? That we
Mm,
should be looking after everybody else. Whereas, how can we care for other people if we're empty and broken? And, it's that cliche also of the oxygen mask. You
yeah,
can't help your child or the passenger next to you if you're, out of oxygen. But I've no idea why this idea of something which should actually just be natural. We look after ourselves. We should be our best friend. That
mm,
doesn't mean that we spend our life staring at our belly button and just focused on ourselves. It just means that
yeah,
in order to be there for other people, our cup must be full and we must feel loved and safe within our own self
absolutely.
before we can go out there.
Yeah, and I have the theory that our cup is actually never empty. It's either filled with resentment and exhaustion and burnout, or with love and energy. And so
An
if
excellent point, actually.
that is a really big step. If you can recognize this, that you need self-care as well, that you need to include yourself and that your feelings are valid, I think that's a brilliant starting point, because
Right.
then you can build on that. And so I would check the inner critic. Who's actually telling you should feel guilty? Is that really you? Is that society? Is that even your parents or so? And feeling guilty is not really an emotion. And you heard that in my other webinar, guilt, we are found guilty in a court of law if we harmed someone. So if you feel I haven't got the energy to visit, are you trying to harm someone? No. So are
No.
you maybe feeling sad that you can't go? Do you feel despair that you're gonna end up in an argument, or like you said, you have to recover for 2 months for your friend? Just really check, what are my motives?
Right. And
And
guilt
then,
is a totally useless feeling anyway, isn't it? I mean, I think it's in Buddhism, I can't remember exactly in which, if it's a Sanskrit or something, where there is no word for guilt because guilt doesn't
mm,
serve anybody or anything. Either you have done something that you regret. Okay, I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to do that again. And you change it. But there's no
mm,
point carrying something that was before, you know, it's useless. It doesn't help in
absolutely,
any way. You learn your lesson and apply it differently
yeah.
next time, or just let it go. Guilt is something I think that a lot of us are very weighed down by, and it serves no purpose apart from making us feel unworthy,
Mm.
miserable, little, insignificant.
Yeah, these are all really important words. And there's this energy spiral or so. So you can see what the frequency is, and shame and
Yeah,
guilt are the
yeah,
lowest bottom one, because they shut us down. And like
yes,
I said, there is no need for this. So I would strengthen my self-care, and you can do this, like, for example, taking time for yourself. 1% of the day is less than 15
yeah,
minutes. Just do
yeah,
something for yourself. Strengthen your relationship to yourself. Start loving yourself, because it's not about them against us. It's not about, oh, they did all this wrong. Like you said, the more I learned about being a mother myself, the more compassion and understanding I had for my parents. And forgiveness doesn't mean like, oh yeah, okay, it wasn't that bad. No, it was really
no,
bad. We're really
yes,
bad parents, but I will not allow you to harm me any longer. And I can still be there. My mom needs something from Amazon or has a question, I'm there for her. However,
right,
at certain subjects, I will not discuss with her, for both
right.
benefit.
It's
That's
boundaries, right, isn't it? So that doesn't mean that we're turning our back. We're there, but until a certain level, not when it starts depleting who we are, right?
exactly. Yeah, you don't wait till you are as ill as I am. And that's why I'm doing this work, because I don't want people to be stopped by their body. My body helped me to put up boundaries. My body helped me to say, I can't visit you. But I don't want people to get so ill to that.
Yes, it's a shame that the pain has to be that hard that your body literally shuts down and refuses to
Yeah.
operate in order to take action. So it's an awareness, to come back to something that you said right at the beginning, right? It's being aware of what we're feeling, and we always have a choice, right? We have many choices, so we can always choose. And I think indeed what you were saying about self-love, and even if it's just 5 minutes a day during this Christmas period, I would say, yeah, that everybody literally takes, 5 or 10 minutes for themselves in the morning to first ground, do some self-love exercises or whatsoever, have a shower, put some body lotion on, whether it's physical or emotional, your self-care, and then we can go out. And I was also thinking, we can always leave a room, right? If things start getting too painful and you're feeling very triggered and you're thinking, I mean, that's something that I've certainly put into practice for this coming Christmas, because sometimes I get triggered and I actually get hurt, but instead of expressing the hurt, I express then, anger or frustration or whatsoever, or I turn it inside and get a stomach ache. And I thought, I can just walk away. I can just go to the toilet, wash my hands, take a few dishes away, do some deep breathing, remind myself that I love absolutely everyone around that table, and to not sort of react to everything.
I love that, because that's exactly there is Viktor Frankl. He wrote a book,
Yes.
Search for Meaning, and he's got this poem that says between stimulus and response there is a gap, or you little
Yeah.
great like break. And the bigger you make this, that's how I learned to deal with my anger. I just had 1 second, 2 seconds, a bit more, and now it's like,
Right.
you're right, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't have to react. And really, in
Yeah.
that gap, that's where our growth and our power lies,
And
really.
our happiness.
Yeah. And I want to acknowledge the people as well who are so angry they don't even feel compassionate to their parents, or especially their mum. And that's okay. It took me a long time. This is a development. And also my parents, they're not just evil. They show a lot of compassion and kindness. They taught me values like working hard and loving education. So I feel I'm still lucky enough, as long as I don't trigger my mom and don't mention anything from the past, we can have a civilized relationship. And she tells me how much she loves me, and that triggers me. And I'm just like,
Mm.
say thank you. But I want to acknowledge the people who are not being treated kindly by their moms, who are really criticized,
Mm.
and that to still go there then and then say, okay, I'll
Mm.
leave the room. I think
Mm.
I would, in that case, I really wouldn't go, because if you are
Yeah.
treated with disrespect,
Yeah.
why are you giving,
Yeah.
why,
Why put
why
yourself in that situation
exactly,
anyway, right?
why do you still believe you still have to go just because it's Christmas or your family,
Yeah.
or
No.
no, they're like things that can't be fixed with goodwill
Oh,
anymore.
totally agree. Totally agree. And then there's that feeling also of unfair, why should I make an effort when
Yeah,
I've suffered so much? It's not fair. And that's also fine, right? It's also fine. But then it's indeed to not react, but to really acknowledge, okay, what am I feeling? Is there something I can do, in order to make it agreeable for both of us? And if not, then to just let it go with love. You can sort of say, I'm sending you best wishes for Christmas, but just take oneself out.
yeah, and I would explain less rather than more.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you try to justify
Oh
and
yeah, yeah,
apologize, they're not gonna understand
no.
that anyway. So,
And then you get soaked into that same
exactly.
discussion and that same, yeah.
Yeah, we need to get the story out of our head. It's not the story about the villain against the hero. So it's just people, unfortunately, trying their best, and sometimes their best is awful or very lopsided and very wrong.
Yes,
But in the end of the day, I truly believe that if my parents would know what they did to me, they would be absolutely horrified. And
right,
but that's everybody has to make that decision themselves, how they judge how this is for them,
right.
you know. Um,
Okay, so I mean, we are approaching the end already. What final tips or so would you have, for somebody who is apprehensive at the approach of Christmas, has decided to go for whatever reason? So
well,
self-care,
yeah, and I have a few book. I can send you a few book titles. So there's The Dance of Anger by Harriet Lerner. It's a brilliant book. And then there's like Narcissistic Personality Disorder by Peter Salerno. So that's a really good book as well. And for self-care, my friend, she wrote a book, I Believe in Me, Reignite Your Life in 42 Days. Books and listening to YouTube videos and podcasts like yours have helped me most, because it's the voice of someone else. and you can learn so much. And if you doubt yourself, you get a bit encouragement. And I would just make that part of the self-care. Take the time while you do some cleaning or whatever. You can listen to an audiobook, to your podcast. Yeah,
That's right, because when our cup is full and we're not going there with the hope that they're going to give us something that we've desperately
exactly.
wanted, then we're okay, right? We're protected.
Yeah,
We're not thirsty, hungry, desperate for that
yeah,
attention we didn't get, or for the words, or for the "you're wonderful" that we didn't get. It's just to then go there, respect the fact that they're your parents. Indeed, if we're not talking about something where there's where there would better
yeah,
be, with all the acute pain it must cause. But we do need to self-preserve as well, and there's no point being masochistic and putting
yeah,
yourself in a situation which is not going to work when you know that the other person isn't going to change, or using the Christmas period to settle accounts. I think that maybe that's not the best moment to do it. That
yeah,
might be, if there are things which need to be said and haven't been said yet, maybe Christmas period isn't the rest. So it's, I guess, to go there ourselves, okay, share what we can share, stop when it's crossing our lines. And that is one of the advantages of our age, right? Is that we do have a little bit more of understanding of the things that are triggering us. And it is all that recognition that okay, this is what's going on, this is what I feel. Take a deep breath. What do I want to do about it to make this as harmonious as we can? But my heart does go out to all of you who will be having, harder Christmases maybe than
yeah,
some. And it's all of that. It's not my fault. And,
yeah.
I think we do go back to being, oh, but it must have been something I said or something I did. And it's not. You're wonderful. You're beautiful, just as who you are. Go and share your light, but make sure that your own light stays intact. And if not, just move back.
Absolutely. That was a lovely summary. And thank you so much for giving me
Thank you. Thank you, really, from the bottom of
this.
my heart, for having brought up this topic, because this isn't something that we talk enough about. So you're welcome back anytime to take this one step further on whichever level you want, because there's an awful lot more people out there who feel this at whatever degree it is, right? It can go from very many degrees, but we all deserve to heal, and we all deserve to be able to approach this sort of period of the year feeling okay and not in a state of frenzy or fear or pain. Wishing you all wonderful holidays. Love yourself. Know how absolutely wonderful being you are. Shine what you can shine. And if need, just step back. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you very, very much. All the best to all of you in this period of the year. And I will certainly make sure that I add the resources you've just mentioned in the show notes. The episodes will be coming out this week anyway. Like that, you can already start listening and reading, so that you're well prepared and safe and whole, let's say, before you meet up with the rest of the family. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.